Hello, and welcome to History Vault. When you think of the Olympic Games now, you probably imagine a huge global party for sports. Thousands of athletes from countries all over the world competing for gold, silver, and bronze medals. But the very first Olympics, back in ancient times, were way different. They were smaller, much harder, and in some ways, a lot more meaningful. There were no gold medals, no teams representing countries, and everyone competed completely naked. Why would anyone train for years with brutal, tough workouts, travel across dangerous lands, and join in rough, sometimes deadly events, all for just a simple crown made from olive leaves? The reason was something far more valuable than any medal: fame. In ancient Greece, winning at the Olympics was like touching the gods, earning a kind of forever life and gaining huge honor for yourself, your family, and your home city. All while Zeus, the king of the gods, watched over it. So tonight, you're going to become one of those athletes. We'll leave the modern world behind and travel back over 2,000 years. You'll go through the long, hard path from a simple farm boy to a trained champion. You'll make the tough journey across Greece, pass the strict 1-month trial at Elis, and swear your serious oath to the gods. You'll hear the roaring crowd, feel the dirt of the stadium, and taste the thrill of victory that could make you a hero for all time. But before we start, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. It's a quick and great way to help the channel, and it really means the world to me. I'd also love to know where you're watching from tonight and what time it is there. Drop that in the comments. I'd be so grateful. Now, get comfy. Let the noises of today fade away. And let's step into a world of olive trees, stone temples, and the chase for glory that never ends. Your world is small, filled with the smell of dry earth and old traditions. You're 14 years old. Your days are bounded by your father's olive groves with their silvery green leaves, the rocky path to the village water well, and the sun-faded walls of the handful of homes in your little village. This is one of the many farming spots dotted across the rough hills of Attica. On a really clear day, from the tallest hill nearby, you can just make out the faint gleam of marble from the Acropolis in far-off Athens, a place that seems as distant as the stars. The word, demos, is at the heart of your life. Right here, it means your village, this tight group of families, farms, and ways of doing things, all tied together by blood and history. But on a bigger scale, demos means all the free people of your city-state, the everyday folks who hold the real power. For you, though, it's just home. The only world you've ever known. Life here follows the sun. It wakes you at dawn, stretching long shadows from the hills, and drives you to cool shade under fig trees when the afternoon heat steals your breath. All day, you hear the non-stop buzz of cicadas and the distant bleats of your family's goats. Your body is no temple. It's a tool. It's strong, not from gym training, but from daily hard work. You rise before light to lead the goats to grass. You spend hours under the blazing sun, digging soil in the groves, your back and shoulders burning with that familiar ache. At dusk, you haul heavy water jars home for your mother. Your hands are calloused, your feet tough from sharp rocks, your skin the deep brown of baked clay. You do it without question. It's the same life your father lived, and his father before him. Epic stories of heroes and gods feel like distant dreams, winter night tales that don't touch a real, gritty days. But today feels different. Midday chores are done, and you get a rare break. You're with the village boys, lounging by a dry creek bed. As usual, talk turns to a challenge. Lyco's biggest kid, son of the man with the most goats, brags about his speed. He points to the hilltop, where a lone twisted olive tree stands against the bright blue sky. First to touch that trunk is the best, he says. It's just a game. But as you all leap up, something new sparks inside you. The others dash with wild, clumsy energy. You feel alive. Your feet barely touch the ground. The steep, rocky climb that usually wears you out now feels like a thrill. Your lungs pull in hot air easily, powerfully. The shouts behind you fade, replaced by wind roaring past your ears. You're not just running, you're flying. You slam your hands against the rough bark, a full 50 steps ahead of Lycos, who's still climbing hard. You're barely breathing fast, just buzzing with a strange, electric joy you've never known. The others stagger up, gasping and cursing. Then you notice someone watching Dot. It's Dials, the old man whose son died years ago, fighting raiders from a rival city. He no longer works the land. He sits in shade, watching village life. People say he once traveled to Corinth, and even Sparta in his youth. The other elders respect him in a way they don't respect anyone else. He motions you over with a single bent finger. You approach him cautiously. His eyes, usually hazy with memories, are sharp and clear. They are not looking at you, the boy, but at your physique. He studies your legs, your shoulders, the depth of your chest. You do not run like a goat herder, he says, his voice a dry whisper. You run like a deer. How old are you? You tell him your age. He nods slowly, stroking his gray beard. There is a special ability in you, boy. A gift from the gods. To let it waste away in these dusty fields would be an insult to them. He speaks of things you have only heard in hushed tones. The games at Nemea, the festival at Isthmia, and the one that matters above all others. He says the word Olympia, and for the first time, it does not sound like a legend. It sounds like a place you can go. Later that evening, you observe Dials speaking with your father, a strict and practical man who measures success by harvest yields and rainfall. Father looks at you in a way he never has before. He sees past the simple identity of son and worker, and for the first time, he recognizes the potential for something greater, a chance at a lasting reputation, a glory that his farmland could never offer. The conversation ends. Your father walks toward you, his face set in a look of grim resolve. He places a heavy hand on your shoulder. Tomorrow, your brothers will look after the goats, he states. Your life as a farmer is finished. Dials says you must be tested. Your real work is about to begin. You look out at the familiar hills, now bathed in the purple glow of twilight, and you realize they are no longer the limit of your world. They are the first step on a new and daunting journey. The trip from your village is a descent from the quiet hills into a roaring ocean of people. As you walk through the great gates of Athens, the known world of buzzing cicadas and bleating goats is swallowed by an overwhelming sound. The rumble of wagon wheels on the stone streets, the endless calls of merchants in the agora, marketplace, the noisy confusion of a city that never stops. The air is dense with the unfamiliar sense of charcoal smoke, exotic seasonings, and the perspiration of the crowd pressing in from every side. Your father guides you through the bewildering maze of streets, his hand a firm anchor on your shoulder, leading you to a walled complex on the city's outskirts, a famous training center, gymnasium. This, he tells you, is your new world. The instant you step through the entrance, your senses are flooded. This is not merely a building. It is a self-contained universe. Before you lies the palestra, a vast, square courtyard of packed dirt, enclosed by a covered walkway where robed men, older and richer than any you have ever met, stand discussing and gesturing. Beyond it, you see long, open-air running tracks stretching into the distance. The men here train in the traditional Greek manner, their physiques fully exposed. They are larger than you, their muscles more defined, their skin a patchwork of old scars and fresh scrapes. They move with a sense of purpose and confidence that makes you feel small and unprepared. A boy in a land of giants, The air itself is different here. It is thick and heavy, carrying a smell you have never encountered. A strong, almost sickly sweet mixture that will soon become the scent of your own existence. It is the smell of olive oil, gallons of it, warming in the sun. It is the smell of fine sand and dry dust, kicked up by running feet and grappling bodies. And underneath it all is the sharp, metallic tang of male sweat, the odor of pure, relentless effort. The sounds are equally foreign. The steady, heavy impact of bodies being slammed onto the wrestling mat. The sharp, deep grunts of men hoisting stone weights. The high-pitched whistle of a bronze discus slicing through the air. And beneath it all, the constant, sharp orders of the instructors. You are taken to one of these men, who will be your new teacher. He does not offer a greeting or ask your name. He simply examines you thoroughly, his eyes judgmental, missing nothing. His first instruction is simple: your training begins now. Take off your tunic. You obey, folding the plain garment that connects you to your past life. Here, you are not a farmer's son. You are an athlete, and your body is now a precision tool to be sharpened out another young man. An assistant hands you a small clay bottle of olive oil. You watch the others and imitate their movements, pouring the cool, thick fluid into your palm and rubbing it all over your skin. Next, you are guided to a bin of fine sand and told to coat your oiled body with a light layer of dust. The trainer explains this improves grip and protects the skin. Finally, you are forced through a series of brutal exercises: running, jumping, lifting, not as formal practice, but as a basic evaluation of your physical capacity. Your muscles, accustomed to the slow, steady pace of farm work, scream in protest at these new, sudden demands. When it is finished, you are panting, your body shaking with an exhaustion deeper than any you have ever known. But you are not done. You are handed a strigil, a curved bronze tool you have never seen. You are shown how to hold it against your skin and scrape away the thick residue of oil, sand, sweat, and dirt. The process is harsh, leaving your skin red and irritated dot as you stand there, scraped clean but still smelling strongly of the gymnasium's unique perfume. You look at your own reflection in a polished bronze shield hanging on the wall. The boy who left the village this morning is gone. In his place is a raw, aching novice in the house of sweat and oil. This strange, brutal place has claimed you. Your new life quickly settles into a routine of repetitive, exhausting labor. The world of your childhood, the goats, the fields, the smell of your mother's baking bread fades. Into a distant memory, your entire existence now revolves around one core principle. A word your trainer drills into you until you hear it in your sleep. PONO. He explains that it means more than just physical pain or work. It is intentional, sacred suffering. It is the noble hardship through which a boy is forged into a man, and a man is elevated into a hero. Your body, he tells you, his voice completely devoid of sympathy, is a block of raw, unworked marble. I am the sculptor, and my tools are exhaustion and pain. Through Ponos, we will chip away the soft, useless parts of you and reveal the champion within. Your days are no longer measured by the sun, but by the tetras, a 4-day cycle that governs your physical exertion. The first day of the cycle is for getting ready, and moderate exercise and light physical activity. The second day is the peak intensity day, a brutal, full-scale attack on your physical boundaries that leaves you trembling, close to collapse. The third day is for recuperation, but it is not idleness. It involves slow, careful movements and polishing your technical skills. The fourth day is one of medium effort, serving as a transition back to the start of the cycle. This rhythm is unending. There are no holidays, no days of true relief. There is only the cycle and the continuous effort. The work itself is an unusual mix of pure, physical labor, and refined technique. You spend hours lifting and throwing heavy, irregularly shaped stones to develop raw strength in your back and shoulders. You run sprints in the soft, deep sand of the riverbed, an agonizing drill that builds explosive power in your legs. You are matched with older, stronger athletes for wrestling practice, and you spend most of the time being thrown relentlessly onto the packed earth of the palestra. Each impact teaches you a lesson in leverage and modesty. Your trainer makes you practice the complex spin of the discus throw until your muscles memorize the motion long after your mind has become numb from repetition. Every session concludes the same way, with your body crying out for a break and your trainer demanding one last attempt. Regarding your food, you had expected the traditional approach. For generations, champions were developed on a foundation of simplicity and self-control. You imagined your meals would be what all of Greece considered healthy: coarse barley cakes called maza, baskets of fresh goat cheese, tyros, handfuls of sweet dried figs, and heavy bread dipped in diluted wine. This was the diet of Sophrosyne of balance and moderation. It was food meant to create a lean, tough body, not a heavy one, and athletes took pride in their restrained lifestyle. But Phedros, your trainer, belongs to a newer, more extreme school of thought. He mocks this tradition that one afternoon, while you are working on your discus technique, your release is delayed by a tiny fraction of a second. Before the bronze disc has even clattered to the ground, the switch lands with a sharp, stinging crack across your shoulders. The pain is instant and shocking. There is no yelling, no long speech, just the pain and his low, cold voice. Your arm followed your hip. Your hip follows your heel. Again. You quickly learn that flawless execution is the only accepted standard. Anything less is met with the swift, emotionless punishment of the stick. You come to realize that his methods, though savage, are not driven by cruelty. Phedros is getting you ready for the harsh reality of the agone, competition. He is making you tough. The sting of his switch is a faint shadow compared to the brutal force of a boxer's punch. The deep ache in your muscles is a dull whisper compared to the agony of a joint being wrenched in a wrestler's hold. He is training your mind to separate itself from the body's complaints. He is forging a determination that will not break under strain, a focus that will not shatter amid the chaos of competition. Every blow is a lesson. Every moment of pain he inflicts is a calculated preparation against the greater suffering of defeat. But he is not only a source of torment. There are moments, rare and brief, when the tyrant steps back and the master teacher appears. During a wrestling session, you are repeatedly being thrown by an opponent who is both stronger and heavier than you. Phedros stops the match. He steps onto the dirt and, with surprising gentleness, adjusts your footing. You are fighting his sheer strength, he murmurs, his voice meant just for you. A foolish effort. Use his weight instead. Do you see how he leans? His strength is actually his weakness. He then demonstrates the move with a breathtaking efficiency of movement, using his opponent's own forward force to send him tumbling. In that moment, you see the artist behind the brute, the deep, brilliant reservoir of knowledge that he possesses. You learn that his approval is a reward far more valuable than money. He never offers vocal praise. A perfectly executed exercise is met only with his silence. And you come to treasure that silence because it means you have met his standards. The greatest recognition you can ever receive is a short, almost unnoticeable nod. That small gesture from Phedros feels more important than any cheering crowd. It is a sign that the block of marble is starting to take the form he wants. It is a sign that perhaps you are worthy of the ponos he inflicts upon you. One day, at the end of a long run, you collapse, your lungs burning, convinced you cannot take another step. Phedros doesn't strike you. He simply crouches beside you, his shadow falling over you. Rest then, he says quietly. And as you rest, think of the trip home. Imagine telling your father that the pain was too much. Imagine the silence of your village when they see you have returned with nothing. That is a pain that will last longer than this. He stands and walks away, leaving you with a choice. You get up and finish the run. You come to realize that the cruel hand that guides you is the only one capable of leading you to Olympia. You may fear him. You may even resent him in your deepest moments of suffering, but you trust him. You trust his expertise, his judgment, and his objective. He is the gatekeeper of your dream. And you know with a certainty that settles deep in your bones that to pass through that gate, you must first endure his world dot, and so you endure. You give yourself over completely to the rhythm of his commands, to the endless cycle of Ponos. Day merges into week. Week merges into month. The seasons change outside the walls of the gymnasium, but inside your world, there is only the unchanging routine of tireless work and exhaustion. The boy of 14 who first walked through the gates is gone, hammered away by the unrelenting effort. In his place, a man is forged. You are 18 now, and the person you have become would be unrecognizable to the boy who left the village. The soft features of youth have been removed, replaced by the dense, powerful muscle of a pentathlete. Your shoulders are wide, your hands are calloused into thick plates of leather, and your mind, once filled with the simple worries of the harvest, is now a focused instrument, sharpened by the strict discipline of your master, Phedros. You are no longer a beginner. You are no longer a child. You are a weapon waiting to be released. One morning, the familiar rhythm of the gymnasium is interrupted. Two men arrive, their clothes marked by the dust of a long journey. They are the spondophoroi, the truce-bearers from Elis. They carry bronze staffs as symbols of their sacred authority. A hush falls over the entire complex as they enter. All activity ceases. Wrestlers stop grappling, runners halt, and even the sharp-tongued trainers fall silent. The presence of these men commands a deep, instinctive reverence. They move to the center of the palestra, and one of the heralds raises his staff. His voice rings out with ancient formality, a proclamation he will deliver in every major city in the Hellenic world. He declares the will of the gods. The great games in honor of Olympian Zeus will be held in 2 months' time. And from this moment until the last traveler has safely returned home, the Ekecheiria, the Sacred Truce, is in effect, the words hang in the air, transforming everything. The abstract goal you have suffered for has suddenly become a concrete reality, a date circled on the calendar of your life. For you, the Ekecheiria is more than just a political order. It is a divine shield. It means that the long, dangerous journey to the Peloponnese, a trip that would normally be fraught with risk from bandits or skirmishes between feuding city-states, is now under the protection of Zeus himself. To attack you or any other pilgrim on the way to the games would be a sacrilege of the highest order, inviting not just the wrath of men, but the vengeance of the gods. After the heralds depart, Phedros pulls you aside, away from the other athletes he trains. His focus is now entirely on you. In his eyes, you are the only one who matters for this Olympic cycle. The truth has been called, he says, his voice low and hard, meant only for your ears. The sacred peace has begun. It means we have a little more time here to hone every skill until it is second nature. Then we begin the long road to Elis and the trial before the judges. Consider this your final warning. From this moment until you stand in the stadium, there is no wasted breath, no wasted motion. Everything must be for victory. Do you understand? You nod, the weight of his words settling upon you. There is no more room for error, no more time for building. The abstract goal has become a ticking clock. That night, sleep does not come easily. Your mind is no longer on the toil of the past, but on the dust of the road you know you will soon travel. The day of your departure arrives without ceremony. Your father meets you at the gates of the gymnasium. He does not embrace you. He simply hands you a small leather pouch with enough coins for modest lodging and food. "Bring honor to this family," he says, his voice a quiet command. It is both a blessing and a heavy obligation. Phedros shoulders his own pack, gives a curt nod, and turns toward the west. Your traveling party is small and self-sufficient. Your traveling party consists of you, Phedros, and a quiet, lean young helper named Lycus. You travel on foot. This is the only suitable way for an athlete on a religious journey. A horse is a luxury for a general and a burden on the difficult mountain roads. A beast for warfare, not a companion for a sacred trip. Your own 2 feet are all the transportation a competitor requires. The journey is immense, a trek of nearly 200 miles. Moving at a disciplined pace, it will take the better part of 2 weeks, a true test of a different type of stamina. The first 3 days involve a familiar muscular burn as you cross the plains of your homeland, Attica. Then you reach the great Isthmus of Corinth, the narrow strip of land connecting your world to the large peninsula of the Peloponnese. Here, the road becomes more congested as you join travelers from nearby Megara and Thebes, the first sign of the vast gathering to come. After crossing the isthmus, your route turns southwest, and for several more days, you push through the rugged, hilly region of Ekecheiria. It is here, nearly a week into your journey, that the true river of people begins to form. Roads from the north, carrying pilgrims from Delphi and Thessaly, merge with your own. The path becomes a slow-moving, crowded artery of life, all of it flowing west toward the same sacred destination. The air, once filled with the sounds of nature, now hums with a dozen different dialects, the scent of cooking fires, and a palpable, shared sense of purpose. Immersed in this crowd, you learn to observe the other athletes. It is a silent, continuous competition before the games even start. A group of broad-shouldered men from Macedon, whose skin is lighter than yours, size you up as they walk past. Phedros points out a lean, tough runner from Argos, known for his endurance. "Watch how he walks," Phedros murmurs. "He conserves every motion. He is disciplined. You study them, and they study you. There is no open hostility. The truce forbids it. But there is a constant, simmering rivalry. The nights are a gamble. Sometimes you find a space on the floor of a crowded, flea-infested traveler's inn. More often, you sleep under the stars, surrounded by the sounds of the immense. Temporary community. This journey strips away all comfort, reinforcing the lessons of self-control and hardship Phedros has instilled in you. The landscape itself seems to grow more legendary with each passing day. Every mountain passage and river valley has a story, a connection to Heracles or some other ancient hero. The journey has changed from a simple trip into a true pilgrimage. You are no longer just an athlete. You are a pilgrim approaching a sacred location. One afternoon, Phedros stops and points to the horizon. In the distance, you can see the faint outline of city walls under the shimmering heat. "Elis," he says, his voice flat. A wave of both fear and relief washes over you. You are tired, dirty, and your feet are raw. But you have made it. The long road is over. Now the true test, the final, brutal month of proving your worth, is about to begin. You pass through the gates of Elis, and the festive disorder of the road immediately disappears, replaced by an atmosphere of pure, intense tension. This is not a city of merchants and onlookers. For this 1 month, it is a city of athletes. The air itself feels different, charged with the nervous energy of hundreds of competitors who have staked their entire lives on this moment. You and your small party are directed toward the city's main gymnasium, a sprawling complex even larger than the one you left behind. Here, you are no longer an individual. You are one of many hopefuls, a single drop in an ocean of ambition. Before you even touch a discus, you are summoned before the judges, the Hellenodikai. They are men of high status from the noble families of Elis, and they carry an aura of nearly divine authority. Dressed in magnificent purple robes, they sit expressionless as you are brought before them. They do not smile. Their faces are stern, practiced masks of judgment. One of them records your name, your father's name, and your home city in a register. Another inspects your body, not with the calculating eye of a trainer, but with the cool detachment of a priest examining a sacrificial animal to ensure it is without flaw. You feel the weight of their stares, knowing these men hold your dream in their hands. Their word is absolute law. Life quickly becomes a brutally simple and fixed routine. The first change is a deep shock. For 4 years under Phedros, you ate meat like a lion to build your strength, but here that is forbidden. The judges enforce the old, restrained diet on all competitors to ensure fairness and respect for the gods. You all eat the same simple meals: coarse barley cakes, figs, and cheese. This is a measure of humility, stripping away every athlete's specialized preparations to return them to a state of shared discipline before the gods. A knot of fear tightens in your stomach. Will your power fade on this plain food? But Phedros dismisses your concern with a look. The foundation is built, he tells you later in a quiet whisper. This is now a test of your spirit's endurance, not just your body. You are now surrounded by the very best from the entire Greek world. In the wrestling pit, you see Spartans whose bodies seem to be carved from rock. On the running track, you see men from Sicily who are so fast they appear to glide over the ground. The confidence you have carefully built is shaken. Here, you are merely one of 100 others who are just as strong and just as driven as you are. One afternoon, you witness a javelin thrower, a man you recognize from the road, get dismissed with a quiet wave from a judge after a poor performance. His dream dies in an instant. The fear this causes in you is cold and sharp dot, and so you push on, day after identical day. The sun rises. You train until your muscles tear. You eat your simple meal. You fall into a deep sleep, and you wake to do it all again. The month becomes a blur of pain, dust, and focus. You no longer think of your home or your past. There is only the next exercise, the next command, the next rival. Men you trained beside 1 week are gone the next, their dreams extinguished. The crowd of hopefuls thins with each sunset, and you survive 1 day at a time, holding on to your ambition with a desperate, silent grip. Phedros is your shadow, coaching you with his eyes and with urgent, quiet advice in the evenings. And then, after a lifetime of effort condensed into 30 days, the final day of the month arrives. All the remaining athletes are gathered in the main courtyard. A profound silence falls as one of the chief judges steps forward, holding a papyrus scroll. He begins to read the names of those who have been deemed worthy to proceed to Olympia. Each name called is met with a quiet explosion of relief from one man and a wave of despair from a dozen others. The list feels impossibly long, then terrifyingly short. You hold your breath, your heart pounding against your ribs, and then you hear it. Your name. The sound is so overwhelming that the world seems to go silent for a moment. You have survived. You look at Phedros, who gives you a single, sharp nod. It is the highest praise he has ever offered. The proving is over. You are now truly an Olympian. The night after the selection is unlike any you have ever experienced. The oppressive stress that suffocated the city of Elis for a month finally breaks. A quiet, exhausted sense of fellowship settles over you and the other men who have been deemed worthy. You are no longer rivals, not for tonight. You are survivors. You share a flask of watered-down wine with a wrestler from Thebes, a man you considered your mortal enemy just yesterday. You exchange a silent, respectful nod with the swift runner from Sicily. You have all passed through the same fire, and a new, unspoken bond has been forged between you. The brotherhood of the chosen. The procession begins at dawn. It is a slow, solemn, and magnificent affair. At the head of the column march the Hellenodikai, their purple robes a stark statement of their sacred authority. Behind them, you and the other athletes walk together, a great display of the finest physics in the Hellenic world, moving not with the urgency of a race, but with the measured tread of a religious pilgrimage. Phedros walks near you, his usual harshness replaced by a grim, concentrated silence. He is no longer your master tormentor. He is your guide on this final, holy leg of the journey. The road from Elis to Olympia is known as the Sacred Way, and you feel its significance with every step. On the first day, the march stops at a sacred spring that bubbles up from the earth. Here, a purification ritual is held. One by one, you and the other athletes wash your hands and faces in the cool, clear water, a symbolic act of cleansing yourselves of the profane world of training before you present yourselves to the gods. The simple act focuses your mind, stripping away lingering fear and replacing it with a deep sense of purpose. The day concludes at a designated stopping point along the Sacred Way, and camp is established as the sun sets. There is no celebration, only the quiet sounds of hundreds of men preparing for the final phase of their journey. The air is filled with a unique mixture of exhaustion and electric anticipation. Phedros sits with you by a small fire, talking not about technique, but about mindset. Tomorrow you will see the sacred grove, he says. Do not let your amazement make you forget why you are there. You are not a spectator. You are an offering. You sleep that night on the hard ground, closer to your goal than ever before. The dreams of glory warring with the fear of the gods. The procession resumes with the first light of the second day. The final miles feel different. The anticipation from the night before has sharpened into a keen edge. The path begins to wind through gentle hills shaded by ancient silver-leafed olive trees. You can sense a change in the very air hush, a feeling of approaching something of immense power and antiquity. Then you come around a final bend in the road, and the valley opens up before you. You stop, and your breath catches in your throat. It is Olympia. It is not a city built for people, but a sanctuary for the gods. Dominating everything is the Temple of Zeus, a structure so massive and perfectly balanced that it seems impossible it was built by human hands. You can see the smaller, more ancient Temple of Hera nearby, and the row of stone treasuries built by various city-states. And in the center of it all, you see not a building, but a great dark mound, the altar of Zeus, built over centuries from the compacted ash of countless sacrifices. The entire grove seems to hum with a silent, invisible power. All the stories, all the pain, the years of Ponos, it all collapses into this one overwhelming moment. It is real. Phedros places a heavy hand on your shoulder. This, he says, his voice thick with a reverence you have never heard from him before, is what you have bled for. You take your first steps into the sacred heart of Olympia. The Altis, the ground beneath your feet feels different, charged with history and divinity. The sounds of the world seem to fade away, replaced by a profound ringing silence. You have left the world of men behind. You have entered the domain of the gods. And here, upon their holy ground, your ultimate fate will be decided. The awe you felt upon completing the procession and entering Olympia settles into a quiet, nervous reverence. There is little time for contemplation. You and the other athletes are quickly ushered into designated quarters. The sheer scale of the temples and the countless statues of past victors flash past your eyes. They are the legends who came before you, their glory frozen in time, and you feel the immense weight of their legacy, You are no longer just an athlete on a journey. You are a link in an ancient sacred chain, and the duties of that chain begin immediately. Before the sun can set on your arrival day, a herald summons you and the other qualified Olympians. You are directed not to the stadium or the training grounds, but to the Bouleuterion, the council house of Olympia. This is not a place of festivity. It is an imposing, solemn building where the official business of the games is conducted. Inside, the air is cool and heavy with the scent of old incense and something more primitive. Your eyes are immediately drawn to the statue that dominates the room. It is Zeus, but not the majestic, seated king you have seen in other temples. This is Zeus Zeus, the keeper of oaths. He is a terrifying figure cast in bronze, standing with a thunderbolt in each outstretched hand, his expression a mask of grim, divine fury. The statue was crafted for one purpose, to strike terror into the hearts of any man who would consider breaking his vow. At the foot of the statue, your stomach tightens at what you see next. Priests have just sacrificed a wild boar, and its freshly cut pieces lie on the ground. The sharp, metallic smell of blood cuts through the incense. This is not just a sacrifice. It is a warning. Just as this animal has been dismembered, so too will the gods destroy any man who swears a false oath on this holy ground. You are gathered with the other competitors. The mood is tense and deathly quiet. You see Phedros standing nearby, his face a mask of stone. And then, through the crowd, you see another familiar face, your father. He has made the long journey himself, his face etched with the worry and hope of a man whose family's honor is now at stake. He gives you a single grim nod. The presence of both your father and your trainer underscores the weight of this moment. This is where the rules of the gods are formally laid upon the rules of men. A herald calls you forward in a group. You approach the statue, your heart pounding a heavy rhythm against your ribs. You are instructed to place your hands upon the bloody, still warm pieces of the sacrificial boar. The touch is jarring, a visceral connection to the brutal consequence of failure. With your hands upon the sacrifice, you must repeat the words of the sacred oath spoken aloud by a priest. You swear to Zeus that you have trained faithfully for the 10 months preceding the games. You swear that you will compete with honor and will not resort to bribery, trickery, or any foul play to secure victory. The words feel heavy in your mouth, each one a binding chain. You are entering a sacred contract with the king of the gods himself as the witness and enforcer. When you are done, you step back, but the ceremony is not over. Your father and Phedros must then step forward, place their hands on the sacrifice, and swear their own oath, vouching for your purity as a competitor. The responsibility is shared. If you cheat, you bring disgrace and divine retribution not only upon yourself, but upon your family and your master. Finally, you walk out of the dark, intimidating Bouleuterion, and back into the bright sunlight. The world looks the same, but you feel profoundly changed. A sacred, terrifying bond has been tied around your soul. The games are no longer simply a contest of muscle and skill. They are now a test of your piety and your honor, held in the direct sight of the gods. The path to victory is clear, but the penalty for cheating is no longer just disqualification. It is utter and divine destruction. The morning after the oath dawns with a new vitality. The sacred tension of the formal opening has given way to a buzzing, chaotic excitement. Today, your own competitions have not yet started. You and your fellow athletes are, for a few hours, onlookers. A great river of people is flowing away from the sacred grove, and you are swept along with them, drawn by a sound that begins as a low hum and grows into a deafening roar. The sound pulls you toward a vast, open area outside the Altis, the Hippodrome. You have never witnessed a spectacle of this size. This is not a formal structure of stone, but a massive oval track of packed earth flanked by natural hillsides that are now teeming with tens of thousands of people. The air is thick with dust and the smell of horses, a churning sea of shouting, gesturing, and betting spectators. This is where the first and most expensive of the contests are held. This is the domain of the wealthy. Phedros guides you to a spot on the embankment, and you watch as the teams prepare for the Tethribbon, the 4-horse chariot race. The chariots are impossibly lightweight, little more than small wooden platforms on 2 wheels, painted with the emblems of their owners. The horses are magnificent, powerful creatures from the finest breeding lines in Greece. Their muscles twitch with nervous energy, their harnesses gleaming with bronze. Phedros points to one team. Owned by a nobleman from Syracuse, he says, his voice laced with a cynical respect. And that one by an Athenian general. They will not risk their own lives, of course. They hire drivers. But if the chariot wins, the olive wreath and the glory belong to the owner. You see the drivers, lean, tough men, whose faces are grim masks of focus. Their fate is to risk death for another man's honor. You watch, fascinated, as the teams are loaded into the ingenious starting gate. The hip-pap-hesis, it is a massive, ship-prow-shaped structure with individual stalls for each chariot. As the trumpet sounds, a complex system of ropes is lowered in a sequence first for the chariots in the back, then the ones in front releasing them onto the track in a perfectly fair start. The moment the last gate drops, the crowd erupts in a single deafening shout. The race is an explosion of controlled chaos. The thunder of 40 hooves shakes the very ground you stand on. The light chariots bounce and skid on the uneven track, kicking up a blinding cloud of dust. The true test comes at the far end of the track, at the tight, 180-degree turn around the post. It is here that skill, courage, and luck collide. On the second lap, you see it happen. A driver cuts the corner too sharply. His chariot's wheel clips the post, and the entire vehicle disintegrates in a shower of splintered wood. The driver is thrown, and another chariot, unable to swerve in time, plows into his fallen horses. The sound of cracking wood and the high-pitched screams of animals slices through the crowd's roar. It is a moment of breathtaking, terrifying violence. Phedros tells you of the legends of the track, of a spot on the course known as the Taraxippus, the horse frightener, an invisible presence that is said to panic the animals and cause the most spectacular crashes. You watch the drivers struggle with their powerful teams, their bodies braced, their knuckles white as they fight to control 4 galloping horses bent on victory. As the race finishes, a victor pulls ahead, crossing the line to a wave of ecstatic shouts. The crowd pours onto the field, surrounding the wealthy owner, who is already celebrating his triumph. The driver, bruised, sweat-soaked, and covered in a thick layer of grime, is barely noticed as he calms his heaving horses. You leave the Hippodrome with the crowd's roar still ringing in your ears. It was a magnificent, terrifying display of money and danger. But it was not your world. Your glory cannot be purchased, and your victory cannot be won by someone else. Not the time for watching is over. Soon you will step into your own arena, the stadium, where the only thing that matters is the strength and skill of your own 2 hands and your own 2 feet. You leave the horse races behind and walk with a quiet, focused tread toward the great stadium. The chaotic roar of the chariot races is replaced by the concentrated hum of a different kind of crowd. As you pass through the arching tunnel that leads onto the field, the crypt, you emerge from coolness and shadow into a colossal space. A long rectangle of packed earth flanked by grassy embankments packed with thousands of spectators. This is it. The place you have dreamed of and feared for years. The air is hot, and the scale of the crowd, a living wall of humanity, is immense. There is nowhere to hide that you take your place with the other pentathletes. There are 20 of you, the best all-around competitors from across the Hellenic world. You recognize the massive Theban you saw on the road, a wrestler whose sheer bulk seems to radiate power. You see the lean, tough runner from Argos and the supremely confident champion from Corinth. Phedros gives you one last look, his eyes boring into you. "Remember your training," is all he says. The crowd is not real. The other men are not real. There is only the mark. Do not think, react. A judge signals the start of the first discipline, the discus throw. A competitor from Corinth, a man with a chest like a wine barrel, steps up first. He spins with immense power, his body a blur of controlled violence, and the heavy bronze discus flies through the air, landing with a soft, heavy thud far down the field. The crowd murmurs its approval. The mark is set. One by one, your rivals take their turns. Each throw a statement of intent. The Theban uses brute force, his throw landing just short of the Corinthians. The runner from Argos throws with more grace than power. His mark is respectable, but not threatening. Then it is your turn. You walk to the starting line, the weight of the bronze discus cool and heavy in your hand. You can feel the thousands of eyes on you, a physical weight on your skin. You force them out. You remember the endless afternoons with Phedros, the sting of his switch after a clumsy release, the muscle memory beaten into you. You take a breath. You begin your spin and let the muscle memory take over. Your body knows what to do. You release. The discus soars, a spinning bronze sun, and lands just past the Corinthians' mark. A wave of quiet relief washes over you. You are in the lead for now, but there is no time for satisfaction. The judges move you immediately to the second event, the long jump, the halma. It is the most technical of the field events, a true test of rhythm and coordination. You are each handed 2 halteres, crescent-shaped stone weights, each as heavy as a small melon. A flute player begins a slow, rhythmic tune, a melody designed to guide the timing of your approach. The Corinthian, seeking to reclaim his lead, goes first. He swings the weights powerfully, but his timing is off. He stumbles on his landing, and the jump is only average. The crowd groans its disappointment. You watch as the Theban takes his turn. He uses the heavy stones to launch his massive frame forward, landing with a powerful thud that shakes the ground. The mark is impressive. The pressure is back on you. You step to the line, the stones feeling heavy in your hands. The flute music seems distant. All you can hear is the pounding of your own heart. You begin to swing the weights forward and back, building momentum. You remember Phedros' voice, a constant echo in your mind. Let the stones pull you. Do not fight them. At the perfect moment, you launch yourself forward, thrusting the stones out in front of you as you jump, then pulling them back violently in midair to propel your body forward. You land hard in the sandpit, stumbling but staying on your feet. You wait, holding your breath as a judge inspects the mark. He straightens up and looks at the crowd. Your jump is longer than the Thebans. You are still in the lead dot as you walk back to the competitors' area. You see 2 men from the group being quietly sent away by the judges. Their performance in the first 2 events was not good enough. They will not continue. The field of contenders is shrinking. You have survived, but the javelin, your weakest event, is next. There is no time to enjoy your lead. The judges move the remaining group of athletes, a dozen of you are left now, to the far end of the stadium for the third event, the javelin throw, the Aken. A cold knot forms in your stomach. This is the discipline you dread. Your body is built for the brute power of the discus and the explosive coordination of the jump. The javelin is different. It is a creature of pure technique, a test of fluid grace that has always felt unnatural to your powerful build. Phedros' voice echoes in your memory from 1,000 frustrating practice sessions. You cannot force it. You must guide it. Let it fly. You are each handed a slender javelin of elderwood, about as tall as you are, with a small bronze tip. The crucial element is the ankyle, a thin leather strap wrapped around the center of the shaft. You watch the others. The massive Theban, your main rival, throws with clumsy brute force. His javelin wobbles in the air and lands with a disappointing thud. He is a wrestler, and it shows. This gives you hope. But then the champion from Corinth steps forward. His movements are like a dancer's. He takes a short, rhythmic run-up, his fingers expertly looped in the ankyle. As he throws, the strap unwinds, spinning the javelin with a sharp hiss. It flies with perfect, stable grace, soaring through the hot air and piercing the earth an incredible distance away. The crowd roars. The mark is monumental. The pressure on you is now immense. You don't need to beat the Corinthians' throw, no one will. But you must produce a mark good enough to keep you in the top tier. You step to the line, your palms sweating. You can feel the familiar awkwardness as you grip the shaft and loop the leather strap around your fingers. You close your eyes, shutting out the crowd, the Theban, the Corinthian. You picture Phedros. You remember his endless corrections. You begin your run, trying to feel the rhythm, not force it. You throw. The javelin leaves your hand cleanly, spinning as it should. It is not the most beautiful throw. It is not the longest, but it flies true and lands with a solid, respectable mark. You have not failed. You have survived. As the judges review the marks, more men are dismissed, their shoulders slumped in defeat. The field has now been cut to just 5 men. The final qualifying event before the wrestling finale is the stadion. A single furious sprint down the length of the stadium. You walk to the balbes, the stone starting line, and place your bare feet into the parallel grooves cut for the runners. Your muscles are heavy, screaming with the fatigue of the 3 field events. Beside you stands the runner from Argos, the lean, tough specialist. On your other side, the massive Theban settles into a clumsy starting position, his body built for grappling, not for speed. This is a test of what you have left. A judge raises his arm, then brings it down with a sharp cry. You explode from the line. The earth flies beneath your feet. The roar of the crowd becomes a single sustained wall of sound. You are not thinking of form, only of the finish line. A simple line drawn in the dirt that now seems like the only thing in the world that the runner from Argos is a blur, pulling ahead to win the race, as everyone expected. But you are right behind him, your lungs on fire, driving your exhausted body forward with pure willpower. You cross the line second. The Corinthian is third. The Theban lumbers across last, his face a mask of grim effort. You stand bent over, hands on your knees, gasping for air, the taste of blood and dust in your mouth. An agonizing silence falls over the stadium as the judges confer, their heads closed together. They are calculating the results of all 4 events, deciding the 2 finalists. After what feels like an eternity, a herald steps forward. The crowd falls silent. The Pentathlon, he bellows, his voice echoing across the field, will be decided by a final contest of wrestling between the 2 highest-scoring athletes. He turns to the judges who give him a name. From Thebes, the son of Damastor, the massive wrestler roars and beats his chest. He has made it to the final. The herald waits for the crowd to quiet. He looks at his tablet again. A long, terrible pause. He looks directly at you. And from Athens, the son of Ariston. The world seems to stop. You have done it. You have made it to the final. All that stands between you and the Olive Wreath is the mountain of muscle and bone from Thebes. The roar of the crowd, as your name is called, is a physical force. A wave of sound that washes over you and seems to shake the very ground the other pentathletes. The men you have struggled beside and against all afternoon, fade away, their dreams extinguished. They retreat to the sidelines, their faces a mixture of disappointment and respect. The entire stadium, the entire world, seems to shrink until it contains only two figures, you and a mountain of muscle from Thebes. You walk to the center of the stadium, to the skama, the shallow pit of sand where the match will be held. The Theban is already there, beating his chest, a confident smirk on his face. He is a pure wrestler, and this is his domain. You are an all-arounder, your body exhausted from 4 previous events. Phedros rushes to your side for one final, urgent instruction, his voice a low hiss in your ear. Do not meet his charge. His strength is a rock, and you will break against it. Be water. Evade him. Use his own weight against him. Remember your training. A judge gives the signal. The match begins. You circle each other, your bare feet sinking into the warm, soft sand. The contrast between you is stark. He is a bull, thick-necked and broad, moving with a ponderous, inevitable force. You are leaner, quicker, your body a map of tough, efficient muscle. He charges. You heed Phedros' words, sidestepping his initial lunge. He grunts in frustration. You lock up, and you feel his power for the first time. It is immense, a crushing, brute force that threatens to overwhelm you. He gets you in a body lock, his arms like iron bands around your ribs, and simply lifts you from the earth. With a roar, he slams you to the ground. The impact drives the air from your lungs in a painful gasp. The sun seems to dim for a moment. One fall. The Theban stands over you, raising a fist to the cheering crowd. He is one throw closer to the wreath. A knot of despair tightens in your gut. Phedros is shouting from the side, but his voice is lost in the noise. You force yourself to your feet, your back screaming in protest, and take your place again. The second round begins. You know you cannot survive another display of pure power. You must be smarter. You stay low, moving constantly, forcing him to turn, to chase you. He grows impatient, his movements becoming sloppy. He lunges again, reaching for your head. This time, you are ready. As he comes forward, you drop your center of gravity, duck under his grasping arm, and pivot. You use his own massive momentum against him, executing a hip throw that Phedros drilled into you 1,000 times. The Theban's feet leave the ground. He crashes onto his back with a look of pure shock on his face, sending up a cloud of dust. The crowd roars, a sound of surprise and delight. One fall each. The third and final round is a war of attrition. The scorching sun and the accumulated exhaustion of the day have taken their toll on both of you. Your movements are slower, your lungs burning, the sweat and oil on your bodies mix with the dust, turning your skin to a slick, gritty mud. You are locked together for what feels like an eternity, a grueling stalemate of heaving chests and straining muscles. You see an opening, a moment of weakness. He overcommits, reaching for your neck one last time. It is now or never. You duck under his arm, lock your hands behind his thick back, and drive forward with every last ounce of your being. It is a desperate, twisting heave. For a heartbeat, you are both suspended in a state of perfect imbalance. Then, with a great sigh of collapsing muscle, he goes down. He hits the ground, and you fall with him, too exhausted to remain standing. There is a moment of absolute silence. You lie in the dust, the weight of the Theban beneath you, your ears ringing. Then you feel a hand on your shoulder. The judge. He raises your arm. The fall is yours. The match is yours. The pentathlon is yours. The roar of the crowd, the sound of your own immortality, washes over you. But you barely hear it. The world is a blur of dust and exhaustion. The first person to reach you is Phedros. He hauls you roughly to your feet. For a moment, You see his familiar, stern face, and you expect a critique, but the iron mask is gone. For the first time in 4 years, the trainer's calculating gaze is replaced by something else, something fierce and bright. It is pride. He says nothing, but he clasps your shoulder with a grip that is not a correction, but a profound acknowledgement. In that grip, you feel the entirety of your shared journey. The pain, the sacrifice, the relentless ponos. Then another figure pushes through the officials, your father. He is not a man for displays of emotion, but his face is transformed. The grim lines of worry have vanished, and his eyes are shining with unshed tears. He puts his rough farmer's hands on both your shoulders, his grip trembling slightly. He simply says your name, his voice thick and choked with a pride so immense it leaves no room for other words. You stand between them, held up by the two men who forged your life, the roar of the stadium a distant echo. You are not a legend yet. You are not a hero. You are just a son and a student who has given everything he had. And for the first time in your life, you understand that it was enough. The next morning, day 4 of the festival, you wake to a new reality. The deep, aching exhaustion of the pentathlon is still settled in your bones, but it is overshadowed by the surreal lightness of victory. As you walk through this sacred grove, you are no longer an anonymous hopeful. People stop and stare. You hear your name, as son of Ariston, whispered with reverence by strangers. Your father walks beside you, his back straighter than you have ever seen it. A look of fierce, quiet pride in his eyes that is more rewarding than any cheer. Phedros is on your other side, his usual iron severity softened by a deep, quiet satisfaction. The three of you, bound by your shared triumph, make your way to the stadium to watch the final day of competition. The atmosphere is completely different from the day of your own contest. The air is thicker, charged with a raw, bloodthirsty energy. The crowd is louder, more volatile. Today is the day of the heavy events, the day of brutal, one-on-one combat. First is the boxing, the picks. You watch as two men, giants with massive shoulders and chests, step into the designated area. Their faces are landscapes of past battles, thickened scar tissue over their brows, flattened noses, and the swollen, deformed cartilage of their ears, telling the story of 1,000 blows. They are made of different clay, your father murmurs, awed by their sheer presence. Phedros simply grunts, strong but slow. Look at his footwork. Even now, he is analyzing, teaching. The fight begins. It is a slow, methodical, and terrible art. The sound is like nothing you have ever heard. The wet, percussive thud of leather on flesh, the sickening crack of a blow landing on a cheekbone. The fighters circle under the relentless sun, slowly dismantling each other. As a pentathlete, you are trained for balance, for the harmonious application of speed, strength, and skill. These men are different. They have been forged for the singular purpose of dealing and enduring punishment. Their bodies are anvils. Their fists are hammers. You look at them with a profound, almost fearful respect. Theirs is a different kind of ponos, a different path to glory. After the boxing concludes, the crowd's excitement reaches a fever pitch. It is time for the main event, the most brutal of all contests, the Pankration. A terrifying combination of wrestling and boxing, where only biting and eye gouging are prohibited. The two finalists who enter the stadium look less like athletes and more like mythological figures. They are the most dangerous men in Greece. The fight begins with a flurry of kicks and punches, but it soon goes to the ground, and it is there that the true horror of the sport is revealed. It is a desperate, writhing struggle of chokeholds, joint locks, and pure savage strength. You watch as one man traps the other's arm, twisting it at an unnatural angle until the bone is on the verge of snapping, forcing his opponent to tap the ground in submission. It is a display of such controlled violence that it leaves you breathless. You watch the victors of these events, their bodies battered and bleeding, but their arms raised in triumph. You see the losers, their faces masks of agony and broken pride, carried from the field by their friends. You are a champion, but you are humbled. The skill you displayed was one of beautiful, measured execution, but the skill of these men is one of pure, terrifying survival as you walk away from the stadium that evening. The images of the day's combat are burned into your mind. You are a hero of Olympia, but you have just been reminded that there are other kinds of heroes, other kinds of gods walking the sacred ground. You clutch the memory of your own victory a little tighter, grateful for a path that tested your spirit and skill, but left your body and perhaps your soul intact in a way that these gods of combat will never know. On the morning of the fifth and final day, a quiet stillness settles over Olympia. The great athletic contests are over. The roars of the crowd have faded, and a few hours of calm remain before the victors are crowned. It is in this quiet moment that you walk with your father and Phedros through the sacred grove, and your final, most profound lessons about the games begin. As you take a path that leads past the entrance to the stadium, Phedros stops you. He gestures to a long row of identical bronze statues of Zeus, standing stern and imposing on their stone pedestals. "Look," he says, his voice low. "Before you receive your wreath, you must understand this. You have seen these statues before, but never truly paid them mind. These are the Zanes. They are not offerings of devotion. They are monuments to disgrace." He explains that every one of these statues was paid for by the huge fines levied against athletes who were caught cheating, accepting a bribe to lose, trying to bribe an opponent, or breaking their sacred oath in some other way. You step closer to one of them. The bronze Zeus glares down at you, a thunderbolt in his hand. At the base of the statue, an inscription is carved into the stone for all time. Your father reads the words aloud, his voice grim. They name the athlete, his city, and his crime, accepting money to throw a wrestling match. The inscription ends with a stark warning that an Olympic victory is to be won by the prowess of one's body, not by the corruption of wealth. You feel a cold chill despite the morning sun. The shame of this man has been immortalized, cast in bronze to serve as a warning for 1,000 years. This is the eternal fate of the cheat dot. As you continue on your way, you become aware of another, quieter kind of shame. The sanctuary is filled with laughing, celebrating groups, the families and friends of the victors, but you start to notice who is missing. The faces of the men you competed against, the men you defeated, are nowhere to be seen. They are the ghosts at this final feast. Then, near the edge of the sprawling tent city, you see him. It is the confident champion from Corinth, the man who threw the javelin so beautifully. He is not celebrating. He is alone, hastily packing his belongings, his movements furtive and jerky. His magnificent physique, so proud and powerful just 2 days ago, now seems slumped in on itself. He sees you, and his eyes flicker with a look of pure misery before he turns away, hiding his face. The gulf between you and him is now absolute. He is no longer your rival. He is an object of pity, a man whose spirit has been broken. Phedros sees you watching. For him, there will be no hero's welcome, he says, his voice flat and devoid of sympathy. There will be no poet to sing his name. He will take the longest road home and enter his city in silence, hoping no one sees him. That is the fate of the defeated. You finally understand. You have not just won a wreath of olive leaves. You have escaped the 2 terrible fates that await every man who comes here. To lose is to be forgotten, to be erased by a wall of silence. To cheat is to be remembered forever for your dishonor. Victory is the only path that offers escape. Standing there between the bronze monuments to the cheats and the living ghosts of the defeated, You at last comprehend the true and total meaning of your triumph. You are now ready to receive your crown. Your sober walk through the grove, past the monuments to disgrace and the ghosts of the defeated, is interrupted by a herald's call. The hour has come. You and the other victors are summoned to assemble before the great temple of Zeus. The final moment is at hand. You join the procession, a small, exclusive group of the most powerful men in Greece. You walk beside the champion of the Stadion race, the victor of the boxing match, whose face is a swollen mask of triumph, and the fearsome Pankration, who now seems almost serene. The rivalry is gone, replaced by the quiet, profound respect of shared glory. As you walk, the massive crowds cheer no longer as partisans for their own cities, but in adoration of you all. They throw flowers and colorful ribbons at your feet in a shower of celebration. You come to a stop before the massive bronze doors of the temple of Zeus. The building is so colossal it seems to hold up the sky. Here, in the direct shadow of the god, the 10 Hellenodikai await, their purple robes brilliant in the sun. Beside them on a table of ivory and gold are the prizes. Not gold, not silver, but simple green wreaths freshly cut with a golden sickle from the branches of the Calistophanos, the sacred wild olive tree that grows behind the temple. A herald's voice, amplified by a bronze horn, booms across the sanctuary, silencing the thousands of spectators. One by one, he announces the champions. He starts with the winner of the ancient Stadion race, the premier event. Then he moves through the other contests. Finally, he calls the victor of the Pentathlon. He cries out your name, your father's name, and your city, the 3 pillars of your identity for all of Greece to hear. The roar from the crowd is a physical wave of sound, confirming the truth. The name your father gave you is now a name that will be remembered forever. You step forward. One of the judges, a man whose stern gaze terrified you in Elis, now smiles warmly. He picks up one of the simple wreaths and places it gently upon your head. It is almost weightless, just a circle of twigs and leaves, and yet it feels heavier than any stone you have ever lifted. It is the weight of history, of honor, of immortality. You are given a palm branch to hold in your hand, another ancient symbol of victory. As you turn back to the crowd, they erupt, showering you with so many flowers and ribbons that you are momentarily blinded by the colorful You find your father and Phedros in the crowd. Your father is openly weeping now, his pride absolute. He clasps you in a rough embrace, the first you can ever remember. Phedros stands beside him, and for the first time, you see him smile a genuine, broad grin that transforms his scarred face. The work, he says, his voice thick with emotion, is done. That evening, the Eleans officials host a grand banquet for all the victors in the Prytanean, the sacred administrative heart of Olympia, where the eternal flame burns, a feast of the highest honor. But later, at a smaller, private celebration with your father and Phedros, the true prize is revealed. As you sit there, the simple olive wreath resting on the table before you, the poet begins to pluck a tune, and then he begins to sing. It is a new song, an eponychion, a victory ode. It is your song. It tells the story of a boy from a dusty village, of his years of toil, of his journey, and of his glorious hard-won victory in the sacred stadium. You listen, mesmerized, as your sweat and pain are transformed into verse. Your struggle is turned into a legend. You have achieved Kleos, the undying glory that all Greeks dream of. The wreath on the table is the symbol, but this song is the proof. You are no longer just a man. You are now a story, a hero, a victor of Olympia. The journey home from Olympia is nothing like the difficult pilgrimage that brought you there. You are no longer an anonymous boy walking into the unknown. You are a victor. In every town you pass through, the news of your triumph has preceded you. You are greeted with cheers, offered the best food and wine, and treated not as a traveler, but as a returning king. Your father, once a man of few words, is now a masterful storyteller, recounting your victory to anyone who will listen. Phaedros allows himself a quiet, constant satisfaction, the architect of a masterpiece observing his work as you approach the great walls of Athens. You see that the fields outside are empty. Then you hear it, a low hum that grows into the roar of a massive crowd. The entire city has poured out to greet you. The formal procession meets you on the road, led by the city's magistrates and priests. But they do not lead you toward the main gate. Instead, they guide you to a section of the city wall where stones have been pulled down, creating a freshly made breach. Phaedros leans in, his voice filled with an uncharacteristic awe. "This is the highest honor," he says. "They do not let you enter through a gate meant for common men. You enter through the wall itself. The city is telling its enemies that with sons like you to defend it, it has no need for stone fortifications. You are placed in a magnificent 4-horse chariot, the olive wreath from Olympia on your head. The chariot rolls slowly through the breach and into the city, where the streets are so packed with cheering people that it feels as though you are moving through a living sea. They shower you with flowers and ribbons, their faces alight with a joy that is both for you and for the glory you have brought to them in the crowd. You spot familiar faces, men from your own Deimos village who made the journey. Their shouts are the loudest of all, their pride the most personal. For you are not just Athens' champion, you are theirs. They see in you the strength and honor of Athens itself. You are no longer just Ariston's son. You are a son of the city. The parade ends at the heart of Athens in the Agora, where a formal ceremony is held. A magistrate, speaking for all the people of Athens, proclaims the honors the city bestows upon you. First, a cash prize of 500 drachmae. Then, the privilege of front-row seats at the theater for life. And finally, the greatest honor of all, Cetos, the right to take your meals for free every day for the rest of your life in the Prytanean, alongside the most important officials and heroes of the state. Your father then steps forward, his voice thick with pride. He announces that the prize money will be used for its true purpose, to commission a master sculptor to create a bronze statue of you to be placed in the gymnasium. And you understand? This is how a fleeting victory is transformed into Clio's undying glory. The statue will be the physical embodiment of your achievement, a permanent public monument. You can already see it in your mind. For centuries to come, young boys will train in its shadow. They will hear your name, and they will be inspired to pursue their own glory. In this way, your victory and your family's name will never die. You stand there, the hero of the hour, the olive wreath on your head, and the adoration of an entire city washing over you. You look at your proud father, at your satisfied master, Phaedros, and at the cheering faces in the crowd. The long, painful journey that began in a distant village has ended here, on the pinnacle of the world. Your name is set in stone. Your story is set to music, and your likeness will be cast in everlasting bronze. You have achieved everything a mortal man could ever dream of. You have become a legend. Your journey as an athlete is now complete. Your legend is secure. But your story was just one thread in a vast, complex tapestry that for nearly 1,200 years was the single most important recurring event in the entire Hellenic world. The victory wreath did not mark the end of an athlete's story. It was the beginning of a new life of immense privilege and expectation. For some, their new role was simply to be a living monument, spending their days in the city's gymnasium or public halls, their presence a constant source of civic pride. But for many, their heroic status was a key that unlocked the doors to power. The legendary wrestler Milo of Croton, for example, was said to have led his city's army into battle dressed as Heracles. Other victors became respected politicians and diplomats. their fame giving their words a divine weight. A natural path was to become a master trainer, a gymnasts like Phaedros, passing on their knowledge to the next generation. Perhaps the greatest ambition was to found an athletic dynasty. The boxer Diagoras of Rhodes achieved this, living to see his own sons crowned as victors, solidifying the family's heroic status for generations. In the most extreme cases, the greatest champions, like the fearsome Theagenes, were even worshipped as demigods after their deaths, their statues believed to hold healing powers. Victory at Olympia was not a career. It was a transfiguration. It could turn a farmer's son into a general, a politician, or even a god. To understand the source of this incredible honor, we must look to the origins of the festival itself. The Greeks, searching for a beginning worthy of the game's glory, told two great myths. The first is a story of brutal ambition, the hero Pelops and his treacherous chariot race to win a kingdom. The funeral games he held were said to be the first Olympics. The second myth is one of divine strength, the hero Heracles, who founded the games to give thanks to his father Zeus after completing one of his great labors. From these epic myths, history emerges at a specific date, 776 BC. This is the year the Greeks recognized as the first official Olympic Games. The festival then was almost unrecognizable. There was only one event, a simple foot race, the stadium. The first man to have his name recorded as a victor was not a great warrior, but a humble cook from the nearby city of Elis named Coroebus. From this simple beginning, the games would grow over the centuries into the most magnificent spectacle in the ancient world. At its peak, the festival was the largest gathering of people in Greece. For those 5 days, a temporary city of over 40,000 souls sprang up in the quiet valley. Olympia became the unofficial capital of the Greek world. Politicians and diplomats from rival city-states used the sacred ground to negotiate treaties. The historian Herodotus is said to have recited his histories to the crowds here. But above all the politics, the commerce, and the art, the festival remained a profoundly religious event. The true center of Olympia was not the stadium. It was the great altar of Zeus. It was not a grand temple of stone, but a massive conical mound nearly 20 feet high, made from the compacted ash and burnt offerings of centuries of sacrifices. It was here, on the third day of the games, that the great hecatomb took place, the sacrifice of 100 oxen. This was the sacred climax of the festival, a powerful and bloody tribute to the god, in whose honor every race was run and every wreath was won. As we have seen, the world of the Olympic athlete was an exclusively male one. But what about the other half of the Greek world? The story of women in relation to the games is a complex and fascinating one, a story not of participation, but of strict prohibition, daring defiance, and a separate, parallel tradition. For most women, the law was absolute and terrifying. Any married woman caught attending or even crossing the river Alpheos during the period of the men's games was to be thrown to her death from the cliffs of Mount Tapaean. The reasons for this extreme rule are lost to history, though scholars speculate it was due to the game's ancient connection to male fertility, rights, or simply because the athletes competed without clothing. But one story survives of a woman who dared to defy this law, not for spectacle, but for love. Her name was Calliopatra. She was the daughter of the legendary boxer Diagoras of Rhodes, and her brothers and son were all champion athletes. After her husband died, she trained her son for the games herself. On the day of his competition, she disguised herself as a male trainer and smuggled herself into the stadium. When her son won his match, Calliopatra, overcome with ecstatic pride, leaped over the trainer's enclosure. In the process, her robes came loose, and her identity was revealed. The Hellenodikai were faced with a terrible dilemma. The law demanded her execution. But to put to death the daughter, sister, and mother of Olympic champions, was unthinkable. Out of respect for the immense glory her family had brought to the Games, they spared her life. However, they immediately passed a new rule to ensure such a thing could never happen again. From that day forward, all trainers, like the athletes themselves, had to enter the stadium naked. While Kallipatir's story is one of defiance, the story of the Spartan princess Caniska is one of ambition. As we've learned, she found the one loophole available to women. By owning and funding a winning chariot team, she became the first female Olympic victor in history. Her name entered into the official records, and her glory was immortalized with a statue at Olympia, a sanctuary. She was forbidden from ever setting foot in herself. These women were the rare exceptions. For most, the only outlet for athletic ambition was their own separate festival, the Heraean Games, held at Olympia in honor of the goddess Hera. These games were for parthenoi, unmarried young women. The competitors would run with their hair unbound, wearing a short tunic called a chiton that left their right shoulder and breast bare. They competed in a single event, a foot race about 1/6, shorter than the men's stadion. The victor did not receive the same glory as a male champion, but her prize was still a great honor, a wreath cut from a sacred olive tree, a share of a sacrificed heifer, and the right to set up a painted portrait of herself in the temple of Hera. This was the complex reality for the unseen half of the Olympic world. It was a story of exclusion and prohibition, but also one of daring defiance, clever ambition, and a proud tradition, all their own a testament to the enduring human need for a chance at glory. The legend of the boy from Attica and thousands of others like him formed the bedrock of a tradition that lasted for an almost unimaginable length of time, nearly 1,200 years. The Games continued even as Greece was conquered by Rome, with Roman emperors themselves sometimes competing, but the world was changing. A new religion, Christianity, was sweeping across the empire, and the ancient festivals with their sacrifices to Zeus and their pagan gods were seen as a relic of a dying world. The end, when it came, was delivered by a simple decree. In 393 AD, the Christian Roman Emperor Theodosius the first abolished the Olympic Games, extinguishing a sacred flame that had burned for more than a millennium. After the final games were held, the sanctuary of Olympia began a long descent into ruin. Its treasures were plundered, its temples burned. In the 6th century AD, two massive earthquakes shattered the colossal stone columns and toppled the statues of the gods. Then the nearby rivers, the Alphaios and the Claudios, changed their course and flooded the valley, burying the entire sanctuary under more than 20 feet of sand and silt. Olympia, the sacred heart of the Greek world, vanished from the face of the earth. For 1,000 years, it was a lost world. Its location a mystery, its glory preserved only in the fragile pages of ancient texts. The rediscovery began in the 18th century, but the great work started in 1875 when a team of German archaeologists began a systematic excavation. Slowly, miraculously, the lost world emerged from the earth. They uncovered the foundations of the great temple of Zeus, the stone starting line of the original stadium, the wrestling school, and the very pedestals of the Zanes that had once struck fear into the hearts of athletes. The world our hero walked through was real. Today, you can walk through it as well. The archaeological site of Olympia is a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure. You can stand in the ruins of the gymnasium, pass through the same stone archway the athletes used to enter the stadium, and see the foundations of the Bouleuterion, where the sacred oath was sworn. At the quieter nearby site of ancient Elis, you can still see the remains of the theater and the training grounds where our athlete endured his final, grueling month of preparation. The past is not entirely gone. It is simply sleeping, This rediscovery of the physical remains of Olympia, combined with the timeless ideals of excellence and honor preserved in Greek texts, captured the imagination of a French educator and historian, Baron Pierre de Coubertin. He believed that the modern world could be enriched by revitalizing the spirit of the ancient games, the pursuit of perfection, honorable competition, and the gathering of the world's youth in peace. His tireless efforts culminated in 1896 in the city of Athens with the birth of the first modern Olympic Games, and so the torch was passed. The ancient quest for a simple wreath of olive leaves, the story of Ponos, toil, and the pursuit of Erit, excellence, that we have followed, was reborn. The world has changed in countless ways, but the fundamental human drive to push our bodies to their limits, to compete with honor, and to achieve a small piece of immortal glory remains. The sacred flame that was extinguished so long ago was eventually relit, and it burns to this day. And with that, our travels in the ancient world are at an end. Thank you for walking this long road with me. My hope is that the story of this young champion's struggle and triumph stays with you until we meet again in the shadows of the past. I wish you a calm and peaceful night.